Hey guys, Trent here. Up front, I just wanted to let you know that this episode was recorded a couple weeks ago, but due to some random stuff going on, we did not get it out until now. So I just wanted to bring that up front because we have a lengthy review of a Dirty Honey Joyous Wolf show that actually happened almost 2.5 weeks ago now, and we were talking about it like it was 2 days ago. And we also talk about Austin Moe's new single coming out tomorrow, which it actually came out about a week and a half ago. So, with all that being said, now maybe that'll make sense to you. Get ready for a great interview with Austin Moe and be on the lookout here in the next week for interviews with Diamond Rowe of Tetrarch and Eric Kluber of Void Vader.
Hey, this is Austin Moe, and you're listening to Thunder Underground.
Welcome to episode 324 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent and Jason here as always. And this week we've got Austin Moe joining us. This is going to be a very cool conversation talking about everything he's got going on. We're also going to talk about a concert we just saw. And of course, I'm sure something else. I don't know. If you got anything up your sleeve. Well, you're not wearing sleeves, so.
Right. So I can't have anything up on.
Right. That was a pun that just wrote itself as I was speaking.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, we need to let you know who we're sponsored by. The Rocklahoma lineup was finally announced, and DEB Concerts is a part of that because they present the Roadhouse stage at Rocklahoma every year. And this year at Rocklahoma, the Roadhouse stage will feature Stephen Pearcy of Rat. He'll be headlining the pre-party on Thursday night. Bullet Boys will also be playing that day. And the Roadhouse stage will also feature headline spots from George Lynch, along with whatever he's now calling Lynch Mob, isn't it? The Electric Mayhem?
George Lynch and the Electric Freedom.
Oh, Electric Freedom. Electric Mayhem, that's the freaking Muppets. The
Jeez.
Electric Freedom. It also feature George Lynch and the Electric Freedom, formerly Lynch Mob, John Five, and Puddle of Mud. All three of those bands will be headlining that Roadhouse stage. So get over there. There'll also be tons of other bands, including some of the bands we've had on this podcast ourselves, right? Many.
Totally.
Yeah. We'll be talking about all that in the weeks to come. DEBconcerts.com is where you can get ticket info and be kept up to date on all future announcements, and we'll bring them to you here as well. We've also got Hell Hot Hot Sauce, a hot sauce company based out of the San Francisco Bay Area that makes small batch artisan hot sauces. You can buy them online at hellahothhotsauce.com. If you're on the East Coast, they're in a lot of stores out there as well, so get online to find out where. They do a lot of collaborations. We've been fortunate enough to try Florida Frank's Florida Heat. Frank from Hatebreed has a sauce, and it is extremely good, and it is extremely hot, just like the title says. We've also been fortunate enough to try Techno Destructo's Garlic Death Grip, and that stuff is just amazing across the board, in my opinion.
It's garlic. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things in the world.
It's badass.
Yeah. So both those, Ghoul has been on this podcast. They have a sauce called Brain Jerk. There's several other sauces to try. And they've even announced there's, stuff in the works with Zetro.
Right.
Possibly Death Angel.
Yes, that's right.
Well, actually, Zetro is happening. I think
Yeah.
I saw him post a thing recently about it. But there might be something coming from Death Angel and a few others, so of course, we'll let you know when that happens. So check out hellahothhotsauce.com. Sunset Tattoo is a tattoo shop in Tulsa. Midtown Tulsa to be exact. 25 plus years of experience doing tattoos from Jake. His tattoos are done good and proper. State licensed. Mother approved. You can check out photos at Sunset Tattoo Tulsa on Facebook, and on Instagram it's at Sunset Tattoo Tulsa. Shoot him a message or give him a call to set up a time to get in there or talk about what work you need to have done. I've had a tattoo done by Jake. I'm really happy with it, and we know a lot of other people that have as well. So give him a call, get over there, and tell him Thunder Underground sent you. Finally, we've got Med Farm, a dispensary located in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. 24683 East Highway 51. There's 4,500 million dispensaries in this town now. So why should you choose Med Farm? Why do you think you should?
Because they
I put you on the spot. So.
Right? They donate their 30% of the profits to no-kill animal shelters.
That's right.
And how many dispensaries did you say there were?
4,500 million. It was a new word.
That's just on like a couple streets.
Yeah, that's just on Highway 51.
Yeah,
and
there's
71st.
there's way more.
Right. But yeah, 30% of those proceeds are going to build no-kill animal shelters. They'll also give you 10% off your first order if you mention Thunder Underground. And they also have a drive-thru. So if you call ahead, text ahead, email ahead, place your order, you can just drive right through and pick it up. You can find out their entire selection at leafly.com. They've got a big selection, so get over there, check them out, and tell them you heard about them. Thunder Underground. Past weekend, this past Saturday night to be exact, the Dirty Honey California Dreamin' Tour rolled through Oklahoma. We had the chance to go out and check it out in Oklahoma City. They played at the Diamond Ballroom, and the tour is just Dirty Honey with Joyous Wolf in support, and you really don't need more than that when it comes to these two bands.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you need more than that when it comes to any bands.
Well, yeah.
I really like 2 and 3 band bills.
Yeah.
Just, anyways. No, man, this is, and I think it's kind of what we talked about was our first national show, or our first show back of national touring bands.
Right.
From, all the pandemic craziness and whatever. And what a show to come back to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, both these bands are just phenomenal. I had like high expectations going into this because I was just, probably like you said, we've been a long time without seeing some of these bands. I've really gotten into both these bands over the past year and a half. So for me, it was kind of like, this is what I was looking forward to more than anything else this summer, actually.
Right.
At that point, or at this point. And to go to it and for it to not only live up to that, I feel like it exceeded expectations I had somehow.
How do you feel like it exceeded those expectations?
I knew it was going to be good, but I was thinking about this whenever I was coming over here. Like, how do I word this without it sounding corny? It's one of those things I don't know how to explain where it's like,
just let it fly, man.
You know how throughout our lifetime, the two of us at least have been going to shows now for freaking 30 years because it was 1991.
Right.
In all those years, everybody that goes to shows or tons of shows, you have, hey, what's the best show you've ever seen in your life? And you can name off 5-10 shows pretty easily. But there's been countless bands we've seen throughout those years where it's like, that was awesome. That band's amazing live. But then every once in a while, you see a show where it's just kind of like unexplainable. Like there's a feeling, that kind of like just an aura in the room or something. And even like the crowd, the place was like, maybe half full, but it felt like the energy from the crowd felt like a freaking sold out stadium to me. As corny as that sounds,
so.
That's how it felt. And that's in large part due to how good both those bands were. And especially how much the frontmen control the crowd.
Yes, both frontmen, Nick Reese and Mark LaBelle, who have, by the way, both been on this podcast.
Look it up.
It happened. They politely demanded as much from the audience as they were giving out. And the audience definitely responded in kind. And I really thought it was cool that, when Nick from Joyous Wolf, he had people sing the parts, and it might not have been songs that everybody totally knew yet, but everyone, they gave it a good old college try.
Yeah.
And from an opening act, you just don't see that a lot. To have that brashness, I think was great. And I'm just so glad to see that he's doing those, flips and splits as I taught him.
Right.
It's good to finally, it's good to see, your students doing well.
Yeah. Your hard work's paying off.
My hard work's paying off. Yeah. That is a complete joke. But no, and that's another thing, I'm just kind of jumping into it, but fuck it. Nick Reese is an amazing front man. You can't take your eyes off of him, and that's what you want in a band. I hope the new record that they are working on is more is indicative of this live show, because the stuff that is out that you hear, it's great. It really is. But I just, seeing him live was, I mean, it was just such a great experience. Not only, but the band themselves, they're just fucking amazing. The same for Dirty Honey. I mean, I don't really know where to start and stop with this whole show.
Right.
Because it's just,
like, I was thinking about writing things down
it's like,
while we were there. Cause
yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to forget to say this. I don't want to forget. And then,
it's
of
like,
course,
motherfucker. I just, I don't know if it's just like me being jaded or, we've been doing this for so long or how do I word all this stuff
I know.
without sounding fucking,
Well, I'm going to say
like
something
I'm trying
else.
to kiss someone's ass or like I'm just, using the same fucking words over and over again.
Well, I want to say something else that might be, take it to another level of this guy's blowing smoke up people's asses, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've said this many times throughout the past year or two when it comes to these two bands specifically, along with bands like Rival Sons and, whoever else that we've talked about that fit into that new rock category of bands that are like doing rock the right way.
Right. Yes.
And I feel like this is a blanket statement for these two bands because we just saw them live. That I feel like when you're watching this live, it's almost like if you were at a Led Zeppelin show in 1969 or an Aerosmith show in 1971. Like, this is a moment in time that 15 years from now, people are going to wish they were
right
in attendance to.
That is a great fucking way of putting it. That's a great fucking... You are exactly fucking right.
I feel like
that
it's
kind
the
of
late,
takes the words out of my mouth.
The late 60s, early 70s, that whole moment when all those bands that are now iconic
right
were starting out. And I feel like if you're at one of those shows, you're lucky as hell. And now I feel like one day you can tell some 25-year-old kid when you're 80 that you saw Dirty Honey and Joyous Wolf together in 2021 and they'll shit the pants.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And I'm willing to make that statement. Yeah.
An older guy I used to work with years ago was from England, and he saw Zeppelin back in like the pubs.
Yeah.
That's the feeling you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just like, motherfucker.
Right.
You're kidding. He's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Or like those people that saw us, Van Halen opening for Sabbath, or
Right.
those Rush and
Right.
Ted Nugent shows, those, all that kind of stuff. It's just, you can't really comprehend nowadays,
Yep. Yeah, I just think that I think these bands fit together well on a bill, but like Joyous Wolf has just like maybe a little bit more of, maybe just a little bit more of a more alternative or more modern than retro, than Dirty Honey. And Dirty Honey is just like straight up, traditional, 4 on the floor hard rock that we need more of, that's coming around, but that's kind of what that is. I just didn't expect, I knew it was going to be good, but I just didn't know it was going to be that good.
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought about it all day yesterday.
Yeah.
So, it was just, it really, that show really hit. And I think that both these bands are going to do great things. They are doing great things. And I think that in this climate with, what's on, all the shit that's on the radio and I'm not just saying, all the shit, like it's literally shit on the radio. And, the things that are going on in a live setting with, tracks and, whatever. And, fucking 9-string guitars and all this bullshit. I hope young people take note to bands like this in a show like that, because that's how it was done. It's pure organic. It's from, all the music was from them, from their fingers, from their voice, from their hands, from their soul, not to sound too, spacey, but, and that used to be the norm and now it's not. So it's just so refreshing to see, just some organic ass kicking.
Yeah.
And another thing I thought was crazy was, Dirty Honey. I don't think I've seen a band do like, bass solo, guitar solo, drum solo. I don't think I've seen anyone do that since like Guns N' Roses and Metallica and shit.
Yeah.
And I don't think Metallica even do it anymore. They just kind of do like, a Robin Kirk doodle or something.
Yeah.
And and that used to be a thing where every big band did that.
Yeah, you might see like a guitar solo or a drum solo in a short thing from a band, but you never see both or all three.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a great thing to point out is any band can walk on stage and do a guitar solo or a drum solo. It doesn't have to be amazing. They can do it if they want.
Yeah.
But if you see a bass solo on stage, it's because the guy's fucking great.
Yeah, exactly.
And he obviously proved that as well during that solo I saw.
Definitely. Definitely. So yeah, I don't know. Dirty Honey and Joyous Wolf, I don't know. If you haven't really gotten on that train, I really don't know what your fucking problem is. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, well, kind of like you said about Joyous Wolf, I mean, both bands are so good, in my opinion, that the front man of each of these bands are what elevate them to another level.
Right.
But if you just put any old random singer in front of those other three guys in each of those bands, they're still going to be great.
Yeah.
Because those other three guys make that music great.
Right.
All 8 of those guys look like fucking rock stars, too. That's the other thing. The other thing. You don't see that a lot. You see, like, the singer, guitar, something kind of looks like, Joe Perry or something from 1977.
Right.
And then the other 3 guys look like they got pulled out of, the McDonald's drive-thru or something.
Yeah.
But all 4 dudes look like, hey, we're fucking rock stars. Listen to us.
Right. Like,
and our music is fucking rock and roll. Listen to this.
Yeah. When they walk in the room, you go, oh, that's the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look forced or douchey. It looks real,
Exactly.
Yeah. But so, yeah. See this tour if you can. It's not a real long one, I don't think, of the 2 bands together. Like, haven't seen the thing in a bit, but I think it's like maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But so if you get a chance to check that out, absolutely do not miss it. And like Jason said, Mark and the drummer Corey Coverstone were both on here back in late April. And then Nick Reese from Joyous Wolf was on here last fall. I think it was October.
Right.
So look up both those. Both of them have a ton of great things to say. So hopefully we'll have those guys back again another day.
For sure.
But I guess speaking of that kind of thing, if you're into Dirty Honey or Joyous Wolf, there's a good chance you might like what Austin Moe's doing, because he's got a great sound as well. It's not really exactly like either of those. His is a little more blues based, but it's very the same word you like to use, organic and fresh. It sounds familiar, but it also sounds new, that kind of thing.
Sounds like we're talking about produce. Sorry.
Organic and
I'm
fresh.
going to stop using that fucking word.
But Austin Moe's brand new single, Take a Walk in My Shoes, we actually played it on our last episode with Damon Johnson last week. But it's officially released this week, this Friday, June 25th. So be on the lookout for that. Hit it, grab it up on any streaming platform or wherever you listen to music. Anything else you want to talk about before we jump into this?
I think we're good. Is there anything else going on, really? I don't know.
I'm sure there's news out there, but nothing, I don't know. Dave Chappelle got on stage with the Foo Fighters and sang Radiohead's Creep.
Right, yeah.
I haven't clicked on it yet, but
me neither.
I thought that's either going to be wildly amazing or just insane. Insane. I can't even speak. Insane. And
it could be in the scene too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I saw the headline and never clicked on it, and then our buddy Mike Thrasher sent it to me just a bit ago.
Yeah. And
I said, yeah, I saw this, but I haven't watched it yet. And he said it's interesting. So
I'm sure it is.
It's worth checking out.
I'm sure it is.
Hey, it's a group and a comedian that are at the top of the heap of what they do, but
right.
Who knows how that will translate when you put them together. So.
And that's another one of those, seeing Foo Fighters at the Cain's Ballroom way back in the day. And now they play, fucking Normodomes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my things I like telling people to wow them. Or I saw Pantera in a little tiny club in 92, or, White Zombie in a tiny club, and that kind of stuff.
Avenged Sevenfold, first on a 4-band bill, and the headlining band was Mushroom Head.
Right.
I mean, they didn't look anything like they look now. They didn't sound anything like they look now. It was absolutely and completely forgettable. But I saw.
So you didn't like the early Avenged Sevenfold?
No, I did not. They were the first. God damn it! It was Avenged Sevenfold.
Shadows Fall was on that, right?
Yeah, High on Fire, Shadows Fall, and Mushroom Head.
Yeah.
And
Which that same 4-bill band, I'd pay money to see that shit right now.
bro, yeah, totally. I mean, not Mushroom Head, fuck them, but
Hey, they're better than a lot of bands you listen to.
nah, we're not getting into
Okay.
all that right now. Okay, look. But no, Avenged Sevenfold had they just wore all black. They had baseball hats on, just
Right.
stared at the floor the whole time. And, the singer just, he just barked.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
They were real metalcore-ish.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, I'm glad that's over. And now look at them, they're fucking badass.
Then Bad Country came out and you're like, oh, this is the same fucking band?
Yeah, I was like, what? That was really the thing that I was like, huh? You gotta be kidding me.
Right.
So anyways, we got off topic there, but.
Oh, one more thing. Dirty Honey played Girls Got Rhythm.
Yes, man.
And it was fucking amazing.
That was insane, dude. That
Yeah.
was so fucking cool.
And it was just crazy because that band's so, like you were talking about, just loose and whatever the right word is, where you think of just your classic rock bands. And, AC/DC was kind of the opposite of that back then even. They were,
right.
Everything was tight to the point. You knew exactly the riffs, this and that. And Dirty Honey's not that. They're more like your Pearl Jams or Black Crowes where you go out there and it's just kind of a flowing jam thing.
Exactly.
You know the song, but it could sound a little different.
Right.
But they hit Girls Got Rhythm, and it's one of the best AC/DC covers I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, they nailed that fucking thing.
Yeah. But all right, so now back to Ostemo, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we kind of already did the intro, so I guess I can just say.
Right?
Check this out. Here's Austin Moe. Single, Take a Walk in My Shoes. It's got a little bit of a heavier edge than The River. Kind of talk about what you like about this song and how it differs from what people kind of knew you from before that.
Well, with this song, hanging out with Frank, it's almost a little inevitable that a little bit of his classic rock influence is going to rub off on me. And so the more that we were hanging out and stuff, the more on my own that I was coming up with these kind of heavier edge riffs. And so we met up last year and kind of did the same process that we did with The River. We went through a bunch of riffs that I had recorded on my phone, and as well as looking over the lyrics and stuff. And so we came across the intro riff, which is right after the drum fill, after that kind of chanting little intro thing. And he's like, oh yeah, I like that. Let's look through your lyrics. So then we looked through my lyrics, and we kind of met up for a couple of days on and off throughout the next weeks, and started chipping away at that. And we were realizing at the time there was a lot of division in the U.S. just because of all the things that was going on with the news and everything. And so we wanted to write a song that kind of embodied, we don't understand what somebody else could be going through and vice versa. And so that's the main message of the song, which is, we, rather than trying to fight and further, divide ourselves, just as people in general, we should try and understand their background and what they're coming from and unite rather than, try and make a big old mess of everything.
Right. And, it's a great point you bring up. And, the lyrics kind of address all this stuff without really taking sides one way or the other. Was that intentional? Was that kind of a point you really wanted to get across, was just not to go one way or the other?
Yeah, I think when we were discussing it, when Frank and I were trying to express, what we wanted to without really saying it's this way or it's that way, because what I've noticed over the years is songs that are about unity aren't like stating it's this side of the fence or it's that side of the fence. It's kind of, you know, everybody is great in their own way, you know.
I saw recently that you went to Boston to record, so I'm assuming that wasn't this song because you did this one with Frank, right?
Yeah.
The trip to Boston, was that for, you know, that's for stuff that's coming out later in the year?
Yeah, so I actually met this producer in Boston. His name is Joe Merrick, and I came across his video that he did of they redid Pink Floyd's Young Lust, and it's very like in your face hard rock kind of vibe. Not that the original isn't, but they definitely put a modern spin on it. And so I was initially going to add Young Lust into my set list because gigs are starting to open back up here in California. And so the way that I learn songs is I watch covers, and if people aren't exactly playing the song right, I can tune it to my own, you know, and figure it out that way. And so I came across this video, and it was totally different. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, I think it only has, the views are just under like so many tens of thousands. I forgot the exact number, but it just blew my mind. And so we reached out to this guy who I'd never talked to before, and within a month we tracked some songs while I was in California. He did bass and guitar, or he did bass and drums, and then I flew out and did guitar and vocals. And man, it was a great experience. But by the end of that trip, I was just so exhausted. We did just over 30 hours of studio time in 3 days. And it was, I'd do it all over again, but oh man, we're going to try and we're looking at going back in September and recording 3 or 4 more songs to release an EP later this year, but I'm definitely going to space out more time to relax.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, doing it that fast, that really that speeds up your experience, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah, and even working with other people, it's so interesting to see because Frank is an amazing producer, and he comes up with great ideas. And when I went to work with Joe, he's also an amazing producer, and came up with, he's very similar in the way that he thinks with Frank, and that's one of the reasons why I went out there to begin with. Is just talking with him on the phone and the ideas that he sent me over, I was just so blown away. I was like, oh yeah, this dude freaking is amazing.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of plays into a question. I wondered, you know, you kind of just mentioned it, but working with 2 different producers like that, does that create any kind of challenge in keeping the songs kind of cohesive sounding from when you do get to the point of your EP?
At the moment, I think people are really going to enjoy what I've created in Boston and what Frank and I have recorded and are currently going to release. And I'm just excited for everything. I can't describe exactly, you know, put it to words just yet, but I think people are going to really enjoy the music that's going to come out from Frank and I, and from Joe and I.
Well, is that going to be like a full album or is it an EP? How do you think you're going to navigate that?
At the moment, I'm thinking of, while I'm still recording with Joe in Boston, I'm going to be releasing the songs as singles that I've worked with Frank and I. And so we have 2 more that are unreleased that are really killer. And I'm planning on releasing those in the next, I would say, gradually in the next 3 to 4 months, or 3 to 5 months, give or take.
Okay. So the stuff that you did with Joe is kind of going to be like it's a separate thing from the stuff you did with Frank. I was thinking it was kind of all going on the same EP or album in the future.
Yeah, yeah. At this time, it may change, and we might. We're still trying to. Me and my manager are still trying to figure out what the best way to approach it. You know.
Gotcha.
And when it comes to your writing process, is it always guitar first and then the lyrics or melodies, or how do you go about that?
Usually yes, but there's a song that will be released with at this time, and most likely with the EP of Joe. It's called Golden Girl, and I don't know where this came from, but I woke up really early one day. It was like 3 a.m, and I couldn't get these words out of my head. So I picked up my acoustic guitar and I strummed real quiet. I sang. I don't even know. It was probably. I think it was the whole song. I wrote it within an hour, and then I went back to bed. But usually, 9 times out of 10, I'll either be playing a song and just noodling around and come up with a riff by accident, or I'll intentionally go through the song ideas that I've recorded and try and put 1 or 2 or 3 things together to flesh out an idea, and then lyrics will come later.
Do you find it easier when you're doing that by yourself, or whenever you're doing it with like Frank or someone else involved in the writing process with you?
I think it's, at the moment, the way that I've been learning from Frank and from Joe is I've come up with the general idea, and then I will present it to them. I'll either go up to Frank or send it to Joe, and they'll give me some ideas like, oh, well, how about instead of, whatever it is, either E, A, D for the chorus, how about try D, C, G, and lift it up from that way and try this kind of vocal harmony. So it's really good, for me at least, while I'm learning every day to strengthen my songwriting, to hear those different ears, so to speak, of what they hear the song to go. Because the more that I'm being exposed to it, the more it's starting to occur naturally. Like, I'm working on a song right now. It's just a demo, but I just recently wrote a chorus for it, and I got goosebumps immediately. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly where I want the song to go. And so hopefully in this next batch of tunes, it's going to be recorded either in Boston or elsewhere, and it's going to be killer. I'm learning a lot from both guys, and it's definitely helping me in the long term.
Right. When you get the goosebumps, it's almost like the song is writing itself,
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's coming from somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it was Frank told me this. It was either Santana or somebody, I don't remember the exact person who said it, but somebody asked, it was a famous person, it was like, what is your definition of being a musician and like your songwriting process? And he goes, sometimes with songs, you're just the vessel to put it out into the world. It almost feels like somebody from beyond is giving you their music that they couldn't write themselves.
Yeah,
while
exactly.
they were here. And so they're giving it to you to release out into the world. And sometimes, man, it's scary how easy, like, it just flows out supernatural. And then other times it's like trying to force a pig on a freaking dog door.
You did mention, live shows opening back up, and like how many shows have you played recently? And I saw you've got some scheduled this summer as well.
We just played up in this town called Marysville a couple of weeks ago. It was my best friend Spencer's last show. He played bass, and it was a really good time. Held back the tears, but I believe I have, I think, 7 or 8 booked throughout the year, and I'm focusing more on songwriting than I am booking myself, because normally, pre-COVID, I would have like 5 to 8 gigs a month, which for not being on like an actual like direct support tour, that's a lot for a little cover band.
Yeah.
You know, driving all over the place, setting up TAs, and don't get me wrong, I love it. But right now, I've been focusing on more songwriting than I have booking myself. And quite honestly, I'm having just as much fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, like when you have more time to do that kind of thing. And then now that all these shows are picking back up, everybody's going to be out trying to play. So it might benefit you to kind of do the opposite and go slower back into that process.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of the mentality that I'm at, because on the one hand, I could, book myself from here to December. However, I have a ton of songs that I've created over the last year and a half that I want to get recorded and release out to the world. So, I'll still be doing shows here and there whenever I see fit. But for the most part, I'm going to be focusing on songwriting and trying to release music and, put my name out there.
Well, I know we talked a little bit about it last time you were on, but like, how are you approaching, being a new artist during this pandemic, which is totally different than what anybody else in the music business has ever had to deal with? And like, have you gotten any advice from Frank or Joe or anybody else in the music business to try to help you kind of guide through this early part of your career?
Part of when all this stuff happened, when I was working with Frank exclusively, honestly, we both didn't know what to do. We were trying to figure it out. Like, it was like 4 months into this stuff, and we were going to try and pull off some live stream concerts and stuff, and try and gig that way, so to speak, because we didn't know if live music was ever going to come back. Like, we seriously had no idea. And so the advice that Frank gave me was, while everybody's down, it gives the artists, both me and you, who's talking to me, a lot of time to either focus on improving our skills, either singing or writing or learning a new instrument, and, focusing on creating ideas and fleshing them out and recording them. So then when everything starts to open back up, you have a catalog of music to surprise people with, pretty much. And so that's where I've been the last year. And from now, today, from when I started, I've definitely improved a lot just by hanging out with Frank, as far as my songwriting goes. And it's a lot easier, I think, now, and I'm still learning, to take a riff and create it into a song rather than, kind of stumble in the dark like when I started out.
Well, as far as like the singles go, have you found that kind of challenging to, to promote your music without being able to go out and play in these past few months?
It's definitely been strange, because people, when an artist releases new material, almost immediately the people, granted it's a good song, which I believe Frank and I did a really killer job on The River, and we definitely kicked some serious tail on this new song, Take a Walk in My Shoes. People want to see the song live, So I'm definitely going to start incorporating these new songs into my set, and I think people are going to dig it, either live and or on, their car stereo or home, wherever they play the song.
Yeah, this kind of music, like that kind of hard-driven blues, classic rock kind of sound of music is always translates live extremely well, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. When we were tracking it, I had these two guys that I had met. It's a funny story. I'll try and make it quick. And so while Spencer, my bass player in the River music video, was in the process of moving, I told him, I was like, "Hey man, do I have your blessing to start, while you're in town, looking for other musicians to try and come and fill your spot? Because if I wait until you're gone, live music starts happening again, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot."
Right.
He was like, "Oh yeah, I don't have a problem, but thanks for bringing it up and asking me." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I put out a couple of ads, and this dude hit me up, and he lives about an hour past this place called Jackson, California, which is like super redwoods area. And he drove all the way down. It was like a 3-hour plus drive to come and jam with me, and he's a bass player. And so we jammed and stuff, and it was really good. And he stayed over and then left the next day. And so I called Frank. And I was like, "Dude, I just jammed with this killer bass player, da-da-da. Things are starting to, look up when music comes back." And he goes, "Oh, well, do you know if he has a drummer friend?" And I was like, "He said he did. Why? What's up?" He goes, "Oh, well, this Saturday, I have some time in the studio available. If you guys want to come up and track some songs, that'd be great." I'm like, I guess we can try. Like, I only jam with the bass player. And so I called the bass player that day. This is one day after he had got home. And I said, "Hey man, Frank Hannon the Tesla told me that if you guys want to learn my material, we can go and record this weekend." And they were like, "Oh my God, yes, what do we have to do?" And I said, "Well, what does your job schedule look like?" They're like, "We're not working the whole week." And I'm like, "Good. You got to live at my house for the rest of the week so we can get these songs down to go and record with Frank." And they freaking did it, man. Two dudes I never met who are my age, killer musicians on bass and drums. We just 24/7 worked on these songs up until the day that we were in the studio. And just tracking it live I was like, "Oh man, this is going to turn out fantastic." And it did.
Yeah, it's crazy how magic like that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So the chemistry was like immediate with the three of you? You didn't have to like work towards it over those few days?
Oh yeah, no, it was, we all hit it off right away. The drummer and I, we still talk. We were, so the drummer had some job opportunities that happened. So I respect, his decision. He's pursuing that career. And so we all still talk though. We keep in touch, but that week and a half was studio time with Frank, which is it was kind of surreal how well it went.
Out of the blue, final question for you here. Last time we talked to you, AC/DC's Power Up had just came out, and I just wanted to know what you kind of thought of the whole album now that we've had it out here for several months.
Oh man, speaking of that, my mom actually bought me the light up box CD little album.
Yeah.
And I opened it up on Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." And listening to it, man, I don't know how they do it. Like, I honestly thought when they, I don't know the right phrasing I should use for this, but from my perspective, when Brian was kicked off the tour, when Brian was kicked off the tour on Rock or Bust, I was like, "Oh man, AC/DC's done for." Like, I was so disappointed. And for the people who saw the Axl, double singer tour, they said he killed it. However, listening to this new album that they just released in December, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, these dudes are how old and they're still kicking butt, man." Like, the leads that Angus did, and even the rhythm tracks that Stevie Young did, very, very good, in my opinion. Comparing it to Malcolm, which people shouldn't do, and I shouldn't. But I'm a diehard AC/DC fan, so you're going to get that. But it's just as rock solid as anything else they've released.
Right. I think our general consensus was what we think it's like the best one since Razor's Edge.
Yeah. Before this album, I think my favorite album that they had released was Black Eyes.
Yeah,
I really like that album.
Yeah, that is a great record. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's always crazy to me that they can release music that sounds like the music they released all these years later, and it's still fresh and relevant to me somehow.
Yeah, and their music videos were definitely, I think, a first for, what was it? I think it was, I'm forgetting the very first one that they released, their first single that they...
Shot in the Dark?
Yeah, Shot in the Dark, where they used, I was watching some behind-the-scenes footage, and they were using, like, GoPros, but, like, with the really wide fisheye lens, and they had, like, little paper cutouts and stuff.
Yeah.
To act as Angus when they were doing that, like, 360 rotating kind of view. And I was like, wow, I didn't even notice that in the music video. And so there's a lot of new things that can still happen, man, regardless of what band is kicking butt.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, loving what I've heard from you, and I can't wait to hear what you've got coming later this year, and we appreciate you joining us once again.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored, and I really appreciate being on the show.
No problem, man. You're welcome anytime.
Hey, be careful what you say, man. You won't get rid of me.
It's all good.
There you go, Austin Moe. A huge thanks to Austin for giving us a call there and taking some time out to talk to us for a bit about his brand new single and, of course, all the other stuff he's got going on. All that work with Frank Hannon and everything he's been doing. We're going to be hearing a lot more of him in the coming year, and I'm sure in the coming years. He's on the right path. That's another thing. Frank Hannon, man, he's kind of been blowing up on the production and the guys he's working with over the past...
He's getting it done, isn't he?
Past few years.
Right.
Yeah. So check all that out, too. We've had on some other artists of his that worked with him, like Red Voodoo, and we just played that Aaron Lee song a few weeks ago, and I'm sure there's stuff I'm forgetting. And, of course, Frank Hannon's been on here 3 times himself.
Yes.
But with all that being said, check out Austin Moe on your social medias. Give him a follow. That's Austin M.O. And let him know you heard about him here. All right. If this is your first time listening, we really appreciate it. Wherever you're listening right now, like, follow, subscribe so you don't miss us in the future. We're pretty much everywhere you can listen to podcasts. You can also listen directly off our website, thethunderunderground.com. All our socials are on there too, so click on all those and follow us as well. We've got upcoming episodes with Diamond Rowe from Tetrarch. We've also got an upcoming episode with Eric Kluber of Void Vader. We've got some other stuff in the works as well. Like we just said a minute ago, we've had on Frank Hannon multiple times. Brian Wheat of Tesla's also been on here. Vivian Campbell of Def Leppard. Gene Simmons of Kiss. Bruce Kulick, formerly of Kiss. Damon Johnson was on here last week, and he's now been on here 5 times. Ricky Warwick from Black Star Riders was also on here with him one of those times. Biff Byford from Saxon. Mike Dean and Reed Mullen were both on here from Corrosion Conformity. Guys from Prong, Typo Negative, Shinedown, Warrant, Trickster, Shooter Jennings. There's a long-ass list. Go check it out. 300 plus episodes you can check out. Subscribe, like, follow, all that BS. All right. Once again, a huge thank you to Austin Moe at Med Farm, DEB Concerts, Sunset Tattoo, and Hell Hot Hot Sauce. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.